Stewardship of our planet, resilience and renewal is the heartbeat of our survival, a commitment to cherish and nurture Earth's enduring legacy for future generations. As we come today together, I invite you to ponder on how we can, in our everyday lives, cherish and renew our planet Earth. What sustainable practices of refuel and reuse can we draw upon to contribute to this renewal, refuel, and reuse resolution? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, wherever you are in this world. Welcome to the awaited second edition launch party of the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives and Breakthrough from Plastic Africa's publication, Life Before Plastic, demonstrating traditional practices of reuse in Africa. I hope when you saw the party on the flyer, you brought your reusable party artifact close by to remind us of the profound impact that these items can have in our daily lives. And equally, to remember, small actions lead to greater impact. I actually have mine here. My things are already close to me. So in case you don't have yours, I'm going to party with them. So kindly get yours close to you. By the way, my name is Nanamita Esiedu Ampedumita. Feel free to call me Nanamita. I am the manager of the GAIA Eco Clubs in Africa, and I'm thrilled to be your host for today's episode. It is an honor to welcome you all. So let's prepare to have fun and learn about the traditional reuse practices that are right at our doorsteps. So as we wait for more participants to join, please take a moment to introduce yourself. In the chat, share your name, your country, your organization, and anything else you'd like to share with our community. It can be your social media handles, the stuff that you're doing at your end, so that we can equally see how we can connect and equally see the synergies within our various work. Just as the 17th Sustainable Development Goal says, partnership. So there's a good for us, there's a need for us to know what you're doing out there. So kindly feel free to share your name, your country, your organization, and anything you'd like to share with our community. So Dean, probably you can give us a background music while we wait for the others to join, so we can kickstart in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Thank you very much, and we are welcome once again. So as we wait for others to join, let's kindly introduce ourselves. It's important to know who is in the room so that we can acknowledge accordingly. Probably whatever you're doing, the projects, the campaigns you're running, the advocacy, the environmental literacy stuff you're doing, you can share with us so that we get to know. Thank you very much. All right. So as we kickstart, and there's a need for us to know the in-house rules so that we can have a very smooth session today. So it will, as we are equally introducing ourselves, kindly let your full name display throughout the event on your name session as far as this meeting is concerned. And one more thing, kindly mute your microphone unless given the permission to speak so that we can avoid the background disturbances from your end. Also, if you have any question, kindly use the Q&A function in the controls if you have any questions so that at the due time, we can equally let our speakers answer them for you. And let's be informed, this session is being recorded so that we can share afterwards, and it's equally being streaming live on YouTube. So let's kindly take note. Probably you can invite your friends, your peers to equally watch on YouTube or probably join us here. That is equally accepted. In case you have technical issues, please reach out to Dean. He's available to help you with any troubleshoot, any technical support. So just kindly send him a private DM and he'll be willing to do that for you. So let's get started on our collective creativity. I always say factor non-verbal actions more than words. So there's a need for us to equally share our brilliant ways that we are equally slashing your plastic footprint, whether you're at home, you're at the office, wherever you take your adventures to. There's a need for us to share so that we can motivate others to do same. So whether you are dodging the disposable straws, like you giving or acting like a pro with respect to that, or giving a cold shoulder to the reusable alternatives, telling the plastic pollution that we are the bosses and we are now taking control of the mess that we have actually contributed to. So let's, the same way that we actually described or probably introduce ourselves in the chat box, let's do same in there so that we get to know what you are doing in your own special way, in your own small way, what you are doing to slash the various plastic or single-use plastic that you are equally facing at our end. So let's share our various methods, our various ways, small actions, greater impact. There's a need for us to know what we are doing equally. So let's do that in the chat box as well as we introduce ourselves. Thank you very, very much. So personally, I'll start with mine. I'm using my tote bag reusable. I've been using it since last year, this one. And I have other ones, which I had from Upcycle in Ghana. So they'll be in to actually teach us more about that. So these are things that I've been doing for the past 4 years. I don't remember the last time I took the black polythene bag, Etumusu, when you come to Ghana, just as it's been called. This is what I've been doing. And I do have my straws, bamboo straws as well. So I'm actually leading, letting you know what I've been doing over the years. So these are the little things that we can do at our ends to equally encourage the reuse and refill purposes in our lives. So let's kindly share the same thing in there. Feel free, do that, and let's learn from each other. Thank you very much. So in the next 3 to 4 minutes, we can equally share, then we move on to the purpose of our gathering. So those who just joined now, we are introducing ourselves in the chat box, your name, your country, your organization or institution that you join, and anything else that you want us to know, and equally sharing the little practice or the small actions that you've been doing as far as the plastic pollution is concerned. What are you doing in your small ways to stop these things? So these are the things that we are doing. So in the next 3 to 5 minutes, we will kickstart with the purpose of our gathering. Okay. All right. I know a lot of people are probably typing now. So as we wait for the responses in the chat box, we can continue so that we may possibly come back and see how reflection these things have in the various presentations that our speakers and our panel will give to us as time goes on. So today marks the celebration of the second edition of a groundbreaking global alliance for incinerator alternatives and breakthrough from plastic Africa's publication titled Life Before Plastic, demonstrating traditional practices of reuse in Africa. This publication stands as a trailblazer, showcasing the traditional practices crafted from natural materials across the African continent as sustainable alternatives to plastics. It delves deep into the existing reuse and refill systems, aiming to fortify Africa's journey towards combating plastic pollution. So this launch is especially timely as we commemorate the Plastic Free July this month, which is a global movement that unites communities in action, envisioning the future or a future free from single-use plastics and accelerating the traditional ways and methods towards a refill and reuse systems. So today, we embark on a journey of exploration and inspiration, demonstrating and discovering how ancient wisdom and modern innovation can collaboratively shape a sustainable future for generations to come. So as we know the purpose and why we are here today, before we proceed to kickstart having our first speaker or our guest speaker to come on, I would like us to take a group picture. So kindly turn on your camera wherever you are so that we can take a picture. So if you have anything reusable, you can hold it and then we can take the picture or possibly just give the zero waste sign to show that you are equally with us. And I don't know if then it's possible to equally show the virtual head hats for people to equally select in there for them to party with us because it's Friday night. So with that, let's kindly show anything that you have as far as this section is concerned. Let's turn on our cameras so that we can take a picture. If you don't have anything, just do the zero waste sign because we are all in together. Even if you're not in, you are in. If you can't turn on your camera, you can give us a sign there. You can give us something. Yeah, I see a lot of people having theirs. Yeah, Rita, Ifeanyi, Gloria. Yeah, Thomas. Thomas wants to abuse us, so he's holding two. All right, so let's kindly turn on our cameras while we wait for Dean to take a picture.
Hi guys, I'm waiting for you to turn on your cameras so that I can take the photo.
Since I don't want people to abuse me, I'm equally adding my back. So let's kindly turn on our cameras. Yes, I see the Tanzania folks, those who went to the Zero Waste Conference. They want to show us their tag. Yeah, we've seen that, Jacob. Please, let's try our best to turn on our cameras so that we can have a very beautiful afternoon. We're already going into the weekend, so it's a very beautiful weekend. Friday night. Yeah.
Okay, Mama, I've taken a few, so I think we can proceed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dean, for that coordination. So definitely, I know we are all eager to delve into the publication, so I won't delay any longer. So without much ado, I'm thrilled to welcome our guest speaker, Thomas Daniel Baba, the founder of the Upcycle Late Ghana. And before he comes, I would like to just give you a fact to ask. Did you know that globally, over 80 billion garments are produced each year, with a significant portion ending up as textile waste? Did we all know that? Probably if you did not know, Thomas is here to share light on that and what Upcycle Ghana is doing and in terms of creatively repurposing textile waste into useful product. I've gotten a lot of materials from them as far as the tote bags are concerned, made from textile waste. So Baba, over to you. Kindly take us through the live demonstration. Thank you very much. Baba, in case you're speaking, you are muted. So if you can do that. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me? It seems the network is very bad.
No, it's not bad. We can hear you.
All right.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon to everyone. Okay, I think. Yeah, good afternoon. I'm Thomas Daniel Baba, the founder of Upcycle It Ghana. So, Upcycle It Ghana, we are into repurposing of textile waste into reusable bags to serve as alternative to single-use plastic. So, today what we'll do is we'll repurpose t-shirts into a bag. But before, let me show you some of these are baskets our mothers were using before plastic bag came. I think you have to read this thing. Yeah. These are some of the baskets our mothers were using before single-use plastic bag. So it's called the burger basket. It's called the burger basket. It's made from elephant grass. So it's handwood. They dye it, and then after they add leather to it. So this is from burger. It's called the burger basket. Wow. Fleet, we don't see it too much. It's only the expert who buy it, and it's very expensive. So yeah. So let me start with the t-shirt to tote bag. So this is the t-shirt. Normally, what you do is, I hope you both can say it well. Hello.
Yes, we can see you. Yeah, we can see
Yeah.
you.
So
Yes, sir.
yeah. So the t-shirt, you fold it like this, and then show you down. Yeah. All right. So what you do is you cut the hands. You measure 2 inches from the hands to the neck. 2 inches. So I'm cutting it from here. You cut the hands from it. So it will be in a form of a singlet. So this is the hands. And then you cut the neck. So this is it. So this is the neck. Then these are the 2 hands. So this is what we have. We have something like a singlet. So after you fold it like this. So you get something like this. So you get something like this. And then you cut the base into fridges. So cut it like this. Cut it like this. Cut it like this. Yeah, it will take time. So let me. So yeah, you cut them into fridges, and then we will tie them into knots. But if you have a sewing machine, you can sew the base, and that's your. But because we are using free hands, we'll cut the base into fridges, and then okay. So yeah, I'm almost done. So after you tie them into knots, so we have one up, one down. So you tie them into a knot. have to tie it so that it doesn't. Yeah. So you tie them into knots. All right. So you tie them. If you like, you can tie it twice or once. It depends on the type of material you have. So you tie one up, one down, one up, one down. Okay. Yeah. So I'm done. We have our bag here. So let me put something in. Let me see. Okay, let me put this inside there. Yeah. So you have your bag. So this is it. It doesn't take much time, and also it doesn't take too much energy to do it. If you have a scissors at home, you are good to go. So yeah, stop throwing your t-shirts away. You can repurpose them into bag. It wouldn't take you 20 minutes, or let me say, it will take you like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes. You can do this, and we are good to go. We'll stop our textile from going to the landfill. All right. Thank you very much. Any question?
Okay, so thank you very much, Baba. In case you have any question, you can possibly raise your hand. I will call you, then you can ask your question as far as repurposing textile waste are concerned. Do we have anyone to ask Baba? Actually, I have some from them. Yeah, this is mine. As far as anything we use, I'm in there. And he has actually helped me to avoid a lot of Itumusum. So let's equally get on and get on board. If you want some, reach out to him. He will provide a lot for you.
Yeah, it's for free. And also, we are taking donations. If you have clothes you don't use anymore, you can give us a call. We'll come for them and then repurpose them into bags. So one example is this bag. So these ones are made of shredded jeans. So yeah, you see, normally these oversized jeans, who wears this? So we shred them into pieces. This is the material we get from. And then after, reusable bag. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Thomas, for that inspiring demonstration. And I must say, I actually admire your work, and it actually showcases the transformative power of creativity reuse. And I quite remember, I don't know, it's most of us, if you recall junior high school, we were doing BDT, design and make an artifact. And sometimes we learn these things and we think that they're not making any sense. And Baba is applying it there for us to equally see the essence of it. So thank you very much, Baba. And this whole actually reminds us that every piece of textile waste can be a canvas of innovation, and equally steering us away from our dependency on single-use plastic. So let's continue to explore these avenues together and equally envisioning a future where sustainability and creativity go hand in hand. So whatever you learned at GHS, it is not waste. It is something that you can equally use to do something as far as the plastic pollution is concerned. So actually, this leaves us wanting more, and equally for us to go into the main publication. So moving on, I would like to invite Jacob Johnson, Atakwa, who serves as the manager for the Zero Waste Project at Green Africa Youth Organization, to provide an overview of this publication and share insights about the Zero Waste Africa's practices and the diverse reuse and refill systems highlighted in the publication. So I will hand over to Jacob for him to take over. Jacob, over to you. Probably can give us some Tanzania vibes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nana Binta, and I'm truly grateful to be here. I'm excited to join this edition of the launch of the Life Before Plastic publication. So if tech support could just put up lights for me, I'd be more than grateful for that. Thank you very much, tech support. So I think the first thing I'd like to mention is that Africa has always been a port of rich plastic-free traditions and practices. I was not there. Some of us were not there, but the data, the literature we've seen, the videos we've watched, the stories we've been told has made us aware that before this issue of plastics became very mainstream here in Africa, there were a lot of times when these things that you can see on the screen, the calabash, the clay pots, the glass bottles, the cloth, all these things were used in storing and keeping the stuff that we needed on a day-to-day basis, whether it's in the household, whether it's at workplaces, whether it's in the farm, wherever. These are some of the things that we used to use, or these are some of the things that we're using before we came or were introduced to this innovation that we like to call plastic. Next slide, please. So before I go on to talk about the things that were the stuff that are inside this report, I'd like to make a few acknowledgements, first of all, to the compilation team. That's the team from the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives and Breakthrough from Plastic Africa staff. That's Marissa, Kenza, and Farima. Big ups to them wherever they are for compiling these things. And also to the review team, Neven, Carissa, Niba, as well as Anna, the creative team, Patricia, Ferrell, Anika, Hernandez, and then the research team, that's MNG Research Consultants. Next slide, please. So going through this publication, there's a couple of things that you'd see if you read this publication, which of course will be available right after this call. You see what the problem of plastics is on the African continent, how we are struggling with this problem, where we came from and how we got here. You also see, or you also be introduced to the laws, policies, and agreements that multi stakeholders have sort of signed on to and have put in place as mechanisms or policies to govern waste management and, of course, trade in waste as well. You also see examples of practices made from natural materials that are used widely across the African continent that have been in use for a very long time and are now being very speedily replaced with plastics. And then, of course, you also see that examination of reuse and refill practices and how we can sort of bolster the efforts of reuse and refill here in Africa, and also to see how we can use that as a way of ending plastic pollution, even while policy actors are gathering globally to negotiate a legally binding instruments to end plastic pollution. And finally, how current and traditional zero waste systems can be sustained in the future by providing and addressing recommendations on corporate accountability, policymakers' responsibility, as well as consumer responsibility. That I find very important because, I mean, plastics, and I always say this, plastics is an economic issue. While we can admit that it's a social issue, it's a waste issue, it is an economic issue. People are making money from the plastic business because when they produce plastics, people like you and I buy the plastic products. We patronize it. If there were 100 companies producing plastics and people like us say, no, we're not going to use plastics, we're going to stop using single-use plastics, their products will be in the market. Nobody buys them. There's no return on investment. The companies will fold. The companies will shut down. So I always say that while we are saying that central government, local government should enact harsher, stricter laws on plastic, single-use plastic, and even plastic pollution, we also must recognize the role that individuals like yourself and myself play in enhancing this problem. Next slide, please. So the first chapter, and there are 4 chapters in this study. So the first chapter sort of examines the plastic problem on the African continent, the root causes, and the key contributing sources of plastic waste generation. Many times plastic waste, and in this study, you're going to see where the sources of plastic production is. And it's often been said that Africa is not a net producer of plastic, but we face the problems of plastic pollution very, very strongly. Because many times there's a lot of plastic waste that is, as it were, imported into the continent. And when this plastic waste gets here, it becomes problematic for us. Again, in this chapter, we're going to spotlight Africa's fight against plastic, drawing attention and emphasis on the 2 integral regional policy frameworks that stand out as progressive in addressing plastic pollution and its transboundary nature. And we could say it's transboundary nature because plastic moves. It's a material that moves. sometimes they are produced in one country, it's exported to another country. So it's not even used in the country that it's produced in, it is used in another country. So it's transboundary, it moves across. And those two institutions that will be introduced to in this study is one, the African Ministerial Conference on the Environment, also known as AMCEN, which is a high-level ministerial conference of the ministers of environment across the African continent that sort of gives mandates to other bodies to be able to act on their behalf. And so if many of you have heard things like the INC or the Global Plastic Treaty, Africa is negotiating as a group or as one body. And the body that was set up, which is the Africa Group of Negotiators, was given its mandates by the AMCEN. And the AMCEN also then deals with other bodies to be able to streamline all policies into one. The second one you're going to also talk about in this chapter is the Bamako Convention on the Transboundary Movement of Plastic Waste. So the Bamako Convention, and many of you know Bamako as a city. So that's where it was signed somewhere in 1990. It came into force in 1998, and it currently I think has about 27 member states that have signed onto it. And then finally, in this chapter, it will pave way for the rest of the publication to tell the compelling story of Africa's zero waste journey and how various members of GAIA and BFFP in Africa are contributing to the struggle. Next slide, please. In the second chapter, what we are going to do is spotlight Africa's zero waste practices. So there's going to be an exploration of the traditional alternatives to plastics that are still in use. So I mentioned that plastic is sort of creeping up on the processes that we have, or the kind of the materials that we have used. But what I'd like to say is that some of them are also still in use. Some of the very traditional methods are also still in use. And in this use, what happens is that in the use, people still patronize them. People still use them. So we've not altogether thrown away some of the traditional artifacts or items that we use. So people still use them. And so this chapter is going to throw a spotlight on that and then provide an overview of behaviors and practices while recognizing that there are certain places that may not use all of it and other places use them. And so there is some sort of differentiation when it comes to local context. And so we need to also be very cognizant of that. And then it's going to conclude with an open mind, for us to keep an open mind and then call us to action, to act on all the things that we say we want to do. The penultimate chapter, which is chapter 3, next slide, please. The penultimate chapter, which is chapter 3, it's then going to tech. Next slide, please. Great. It's going to make a case for how reuse and refill can become a stronger part of Africa's zero waste journey by essentially making readers better understand the concept of reuse and refill, mapping the various reuse and refill models we have on the continent, and citing traditional, exciting, and emerging models. But then that is not all, because as young people, we like to have fun. And so finally, it's going to also talk about reuse and refill systems that are integral to Africa's water crisis, because like we see, Africa is one of the most vulnerable places to climate change, and one of the threats of climate change is water scarcity or water poverty. And so we're going to demonstrate reuse and refill systems and how it's integral to solving Africa's water crisis. And finally, so some of you that are very conversant with the Mediterranean region, you know what souks are. So when you say souk, you're referring to markets. So a souk, there's going to be a tour into some souks by one of our GAIA African members who is in Morocco, Hamza. Hamza is going to take us to a tour there and see how traditional reuse and refill systems are being implemented there. Next slide, please. Now, so the final chapter would carve the way forward with recommendations from GAIA and BFFP Africa members in preserving the solutions presented in chapter 1, 2, and 3, and how we can move into the future with this. It's about a future interpreted on real solutions, because we've seen a lot of false solutions around, false solutions like plastic credits, keep producing plastic so that we recycle them. But we know for a fact that even currently, with all the jingle and all the noise around recycling, globally, there's only a fraction, very tiny fraction of plastics that are recovered, and even tinier percentage that is recycled. And so there are lots of false solutions flying around, and we need to move on to what the real solutions is. Then the final chapter then places an accountability on the collective efforts from corporations, policymakers, and consumers. I mentioned, first of all, that you and I are part of the problem. We can also be part of the solution. And Aminta always says that. But then again, we cannot solve all the problems alone. We have policymakers who are supposed to enact policy and ensure that we have the right framework, we have the right institutions that are ensuring that we move towards a zero-waste world. But finally, corporations and multinational corporations who produce these plastics must also be held accountable. They must be able to pay for the end of life of their product, how we manage them, and also ensure that there are no false solutions that are used inside plastic waste management. Next slide, please. I beg your pardon. Yes, so I'd like to end with a quote that says that life was lived in Africa before becoming packaged in plastics. This report has demonstrated that Africa can pave and lead a sustainable path towards a zero-waste future. Essentially, what the spirit or the soul of this publication is that before plastics became a thing in Africa, we're living our lives here in peace with nature, in harmony with nature. We're using refill systems, the calabash, the earthenware pots, a lot of things. But we're being reminded now that we sort of lost our way and sort of jumped onto the plastic craze and used all of that. But there's a silver lining. We can go back to these refill and reuse systems, and then we can pave and lead a sustainable path to a zero-waste future. Thank you all for your attention. I really appreciate it. Over to you, Nana Minta. And while I'm still here, maybe let me also, like Nana Minta said, sprinkle a bit of Swahili here. Asante sana.
All right, thank you there. We appreciate that, Jacob. We really appreciate that for the insightful presentation that you've given us as far as the publications are concerned. Just as he made mention, life was lived in Africa before this packaging came in. And so we have to acknowledge the fact with that. So moving on, just as he made mention, it's all about delving into the traditional practices and seeing how the modern innovation can be mended in there for us to have that kind of a balance in our system and equally acknowledge what we have there. Just as Ghana, we have the Adinkrasem or Sankofa Yinchi. So it's something that we need to equally embrace so that we can come back to that. So moving on, I would like to share this wisdom with you. Just as an African proverb, which states that wisdom is like a baobab tree. No one individual can embrace it. So it's all about a collective action that we need to take in there. So thank you very much, Jacob, for that. So are we okay? So in our next line of action, we are going to launch the publication, and just as Jacob has actually highlighted that, so that we can equally have it, I think it to be online, GAIA's page and BFFP page, so we can actually have a grab and then read what it's in there. So the person to do as the honor is in the person of Henrietta Osei Tutu, who is serving as the co-founder for Real Waste Africa. So I would like to give her the platform for her to do justice to that. Then we go to the boxing arena as far as the panel discussion is concerned. So I'll leave the platform for Henrietta to take over. Over to you, Henrietta.
Thank you very much, Nana, for this honor to be part of this insightful publication and discussions. I would like to really start off from where maybe Jacob started. Interestingly, I think I saw life before plastics. I had some years of experience of life before plastics. And I would say they were really pleasurable moments. Ghana only became a plastic country, I would say, I think in the 90s, where we had plastic bags replaced baskets. I used to follow my mom to the market with baskets. There was nothing like plastic bags or anything like that. And would always buy food in containers. So you'd carry your thermos flask or bowls to your favorite small canteen to buy your tiozafi or whatever it is that you enjoyed, or your wache that was wrapped in wache leaves, right? And we didn't have anything like sachet water. We just had aluminum or stainless steel cups, and people would carry these pots or pans on their head, and you just have to stop and give them some few coins and you get a water. So I would say that life before plastics was more simple and pleasant than we currently have. At the moment, we have about 120 plastic producing companies operating in Ghana and manufacturing around 52,000 plastic products annually. So like Jacob said, this is really not just an environmental problem, but now it's also an economic problem. But on the scale of Ghana, for Ghana alone, we currently are producing around 1 million tons of plastics per year. Every year, that's how much we are producing. And we are only able to collect 49% of this 1 million tons. So that's about 490,000 tons. And of those that are collected, I would say that we have only 25%, sorry, that is really managed well. That comes back into the loop of reuse, recycling, upcycling, exportation, and all those other things. The total of 750,000 tons of plastics out of this 1 million is not managed properly. And these are what we see being burned and ending up in our seas, our fallow lands, and choking us up. So currently, if we continue the way we are going, by 2040, we would be inundated with 1.8 million tons of plastics every year. And these require urgent actions. As an engineer, I think that the words or the terms may be a bit easier for me, but to break it down and for you to be able to help visualize. If we have a typical football field, a football field is about 1.7 acres, or let's say 0.7 hectares. And 1 ton of plastic is roughly the same volume as 1 cubic meter. So if you really want to visualize 750,000 tons, then let's imagine you having 750,000 cubic meters of plastics covering an area, and this covers an area of about 1,071 football fields. So that's how much plastic waste we are really producing yearly that ends up mismanaged, right? And that this is really not treated, and it's just dumped into the environment. So that's 1,071 football fields. If you are looking at a typical water bottle of about, let's say, 500 milliliters, to reach 750 tons, we will need 1.5 trillion water bottles to reach 750,000 tons. This is just for Ghana on a yearly basis. Imagine these staggering numbers. If you know the whale, I think the whale is one of the biggest organisms, living organisms in the sea or in the ocean. Then we are looking at 3,750 whales. That's how much these tons of waste, plastic waste that is not managed well, is for Ghana on a yearly basis, every single year. This is what, as waste management practitioners, as citizens, we have to deal with. If we are fast forwarding to 2040, because now we have a lot of our development agendas pinned to the year 2040, if we continue on the same approach on business as usual and not do something radical, our figure of 700,000 tons goes up significantly. And we are now in the range of, instead of looking at, let's say, 1,071 football fields, we increase these football fields to 2,571 football fields. And that's 3.6 trillion water bottles. That's how much waste, plastic waste, we'll be producing by year 2040. 1.8 million tons of plastics mismanaged every year by 2040. if we continue on the current tangent and not change our ways towards sustainable practices. Let me repeat the value or the figure again. 1.8 million tons of plastics will be mismanaged yearly by 2040 if we continue on this tangent. That's 3.6 trillion water bottles. Imagine that. Where will we stack these? 2,571 football fields. That's, if you can do the math and see how much acreage of land we would need to landfill or to stack these plastic waste. So we really cannot go on a business as usual approach. We cannot be spectators. We have to be citizens who are playing active roles in solving and reducing our plastic waste problems. In addition, it's not just about the space or the aesthetics that plastic waste creates, which is a problem. We also have toxic emissions from these products, and increase in our morbidity and our mortality, all attributed to the presence of microplastics and even now nanoplastics in all tissues of the human body, poisoning us, choking us, and spewing toxins into our bodies, the air we breathe and the water we drink and the food we eat. This is definitely not the legacy we want to leave for our children. And this is not the Ghana I was born into, and this is not the Ghana we wish to leave for our children and our grandchildren. And some say that Africa used less plastics, but that does not lessen our crisis. Because the truth is that plastic pollution is really a monster born from global addiction, and we are inundated with cheap, convenient, single-use plastics that disappear from our hands, but never from our environment. When you throw that plastic away, ask yourself, what is the definition of away? Where does it end up? That away is somebody's house, it's somebody's land, and it's into the ocean from which we are catching our fishes and our products for consumption. Imagine the iconic Black Star of Ghana, not gleaming gold, but now shrouded in a plastic haze. This is the future that we face if we do not act. But there's another truth, a powerful one rooted in our history. And I say that Ghana was not always a land drowning in plastic. And we had a rich tradition of reuse and refill systems, just as Jacob started the presentation of the publication with. We had baskets, I've already mentioned that we took to the market. We had clay pots that held our waters and gave us very cool and refreshing waters. Let's reclaim this ingenuity. Let's really embrace the wisdom that our mothers, our grandmothers and grandfathers and our ancestors led and gave to us, and really says goodbye to single-use plastics. But this fight is not just a personal choice, it's really a call to all. We are really a nation of strong spirit and unwavering determination, and we should channel the spirit into conquering plastic pollution. So here's my call to action for everybody: to refuse or say no to single-use plastics. Carry your own reusable bags, water bottles, and containers. Be mindful of your consumption. Reduce. Do you really need that extra straw or that extra plastic bag? Rediscover the joy of refillable containers and durable products. And let's bring back the culture of borrowing and sharing instead of disposable convenience. Let's support initiatives that prioritize recycled materials, dispose of recyclables properly. And let's compost our food scraps and our yard waste to gain some humus and fertilizer for our gardens. Let's really go back to the basics. And I like the fact that we started off this meeting with a practical demonstration of how to repurpose our old items or clothing into useful products as we go along. I believe together we can turn the tide on our plastic pollution, and we can build a zero-waste Ghana, a nation where our environment thrives and our communities are healthy and the Black Star of Ghana shines bright, a beacon of sustainable future. Really, the time to act is now, and let's rise above the plastics and reclaim the paradise that we call Ghana. It's not rocket science. It is very simple. We just need to get back to the basics. Get back to the basics. We don't want a Ghana with about 2,571 football fields of plastic waste or 3.6 trillion water bottles that we cannot manage. These will swallow us up. We just need to get back to the basics. It is my hope that this publication will spur a revolution of positive change and also provide the needed motivation for organizations like GAIA and the Youth Environment Movement and all other initiatives working towards a plastic-free and a clean Ghana. And on this note, I hope that we'll be able to also, as participants of this meeting, take time to go through the publication, disseminate to our connections, our friends, our relatives, our colleagues, and our church members, and wherever we find ourselves. We need to be advocates and ambassadors for zero waste and a plastic-free Ghana. On this note, I want to end and thank you very much, GAIA, and all organizations, all protocols observed. And we look forward to really delving deep into this publication. Thank you very much. Over.
In fact, I feel so good hearing these words from you, and Henrietta. And just as she made mention, reclaiming the paradise that we once had. So it's really important that we go back to all those things that we used to say or do. So just as I think throughout, we are all talking about Sankofa Yinchi. So there's a need for us to equally go back and appreciate and acknowledge what we used to do. So before, I think 6 hours to the program, I posted this on my LinkedIn page. And just as she demonstrated all with the statistics and all that, over 1.8 million tons, over 570 football fields. In fact, the land self we not get, and we are and we are equally harming ourselves with these things. So all that she said, just imagine a time when our world is overrun not by flesh-eating zombies, but by plastic zombies. And Jacob and we wrote an article on the apocalyptic scenario where humanity drowns in its own plastic waste. So in 2050, what will happen? Are we going to just see it as a normal plastic something, or we are going to see it as a plastic zombie crisis? It's not far from us, and it's very close. So it's time for us to have this collective action. Thank you very much again, Henrietta, for that insightful overview of this whole initiative, and we really appreciate that. So as we move forward, we will delve into a panel discussion that will equally address some of the most pressing and complex issues surrounding the plastic pollution. So we explore to the true extent of the crisis, particularly focusing on Ghana, but given the context of Africa and the critical importance of returning to the reuse and refill systems. So just as we've been saying, we are going to confront the harsh realities of plastic waste management, from open burning to incineration, all these things people are talking about as far as greenwashing is concerned. So how these practices impact our environment and health, we're going to look into that. So many initiatives, probably we have heard about that in terms of biodegradable, bio-oxo-degradable, combustible plastics, all these things, but there are 4 solutions and greenwashing, and we have to equally acknowledge that. So without wasting much time, I will introduce our panel. In fact, I have 2 amazing individuals here. I wanted to brief, shorten their autobiography, but I want you to know the people that I'm going to have this panel discussion with, powerful women. And yeah, so when it comes to passion and being true to their initiatives and activities, it's very clear. So our first speaker, she is a young Ghanaian environmentalist and agri-food system advocate. She works closely with the local farmers and the youth, championing eco-friendly agricultural practices to address environmental crisis and issues. With a primary focus that centers on the restoration of forests, conservation of natural resources, and the introduction of innovative approaches to food production. She empowers communities and influences policies, inspiring her to develop initiatives to build the capacity of young people to tackle climate change. She holds a strong commitment to enhancing the role of women and youth in decision-making processes pertaining to environmental and food system matters. She is a speaker on agriculture and food climate change issues, a member of the UNFCCC Yongo Food Agriculture Working Group, where she advocates for climate-friendly meals at COP, and at the World Bank Group Youth Consultation Group for the Country Partnership Framework 2020 to 2026. She was elected and founded by the UNDP as one of 2 delegates representing Ghana at COP28. He recently graduated as a senior fellow under Impact West Africa Fellowship, an initiative to aspiring institutes in collaboration with the Yale, founded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. As programs officer for the Ghana Youth Environmental Movement, GEM, she spearheaded the establishment of a framework within GEM's food department. Actually saw this on her LinkedIn page and social media. I saw that on guys, so it is really true. Initiated an advocacy, action, and community food project in agroforestry. So this project aims to address the broad spectrum of challenges within agriculture and the food system. So in the long term, her work will play a pivotal role in driving Ghana towards a more sustainable food system. She is in the person of Gloria Ejare. So Gloria, if you can give us a wave, turning on your camera, it will really be of help so that the audience get to know who you are. So once again, thank you very much, Gloria. So moving on, we recently had the second speaker, the person who will be on the panel as well. So I didn't read her autobiography because she has quite a lot of stuff. So I'm now going to read it so that we get to know who she is and why she was so passionate about this whole thing. So she has spent 16 years championing innovative waste management solutions across various sectors, including research, private and NGOs, and government. Her extensive experience in the industry encompasses designing engineered landfills, integrating unit committees, and informal service providers in sanitation service delivery. She is recognized not only for her expertise, but also for her passion for progress and dedication to advancing sustainable waste management practices. As a professional sanitary engineer, she has successfully led complex projects funded by international development agencies such as the World Bank, African Development Bank, and the European Union. She has a proven record in sanitation planning, program management, infrastructure development, and community engagement, certified as a collaborative leader for the development facilitator. She has played a pivotal role in developing the sanitation master plan for the Greater Accra region. Her leadership extends to policy development, where she has authored key sanitation documents, including the revised sanitation policy, including franchise agreements, model bylaws, and the biodigester models. So with this, her strategic project management skills are evident in her oversight of multi-million-dollar initiative, including engineer sanitary field and wastewater treatment facility. She spearheaded the Ghana First Sanitation Hackathon, fostering innovation among 1,500 participants, and developed the ESIC apps, mobile application for promises inspection in 25 municipal assemblies. She is the co-founder for Rewaste Africa. She is dedicated in implementing system thinking approaches in the solid waste management, enhancing sector professionalism. She is in the person of Henrietta Osei Tutu. You're welcome, Engineer Henrietta Osei Tutu.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that elaborate introduction. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And just as I made mention, I am privileged to be hosting these 2 amazing women. So if you're happy for me, you can react giving me some hearts, knowing that I'm very happy to equally engage them on this panel. Thank you so much. So diving straight into discussion, this is going to be based on the various things that we've been discussing right from the start, and equally having it relate to their line of work and how all of us can equally relate to this. Just as we've been making mention of, it is about collective action, and everyone must come on board regardless of your background. So I think, Henrietta, you did as the Anna presenting and launching the publication. So for this, I will start with Gloria, if you're okay with that, Gloria.
Yes, please let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, okay, great. Hello, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So probably if both of you have anything to say before we can start, that would be great. Probably 1 or 2 lines, and then we are good to start with the panel discussion. So I can start from you, Gloria, and then Henrietta can equally take over.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on wherever you're joining us. I want to, first of all, thank the organizers of this important conversation about plastic, which is a major challenge we are facing now across the globe and even nationally. And this is an issue I have really been pushing over the years. So I'm really happy to see young people put this together and help us like develop some practical solutions to it. So I can't wait to dive into the conversation and explore some solutions with all of you here, the brilliant young leaders. Thank you very much for having me, Nana Minta and the team. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you so much. And Henrietta, can we have some spotlight from you as well?
Okay, thank you very much. And then welcome to Gloria as well, as my fellow panelist. And we hope that we would really be able to delve deep into all the issues or clarifications or discussion points and carry this conversation beyond the Zoom platform into wherever we find ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gloria and Henrietta. So just kicking start, I'm starting with Gloria. So Gloria, based on your extensive work with local farmers, youth, and you are championing this whole eco-friendly initiative as far as agricultural practices, and equally, I know GEM is taking lead when it comes to the petition on banning single-use plastics. We want to know your how you perceive the plastic pollution crisis in Ghana. I know Henrietta has equally done that, but I want you to know, based on the areas and the regions that you work, how do you perceive that, and how does this impact the communities you work with? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Nana, for that question once again. I think Henrietta gave some really good statistics that were also or were equally disturbing to know, even at the global level, So it actually gave me that understanding that this situation we have at hand is really serious than we actually see it to be. Maybe for some of us, when we get to visit our beaches, that's when we acknowledge that really plastic pollution is a challenge, or when we see flooding anywhere, that's when we appreciate that plastic pollution is a challenge. But this is more than what we see out there. I would start from what I recently read, and then I had a conversation on. Government has passed this 5% tax for all plastic manufacturing companies and all of that. And these manufacturers came out with concerns that about 30,000 people are going to lose their job because of that tax increment. And when I saw that, I stood back a bit and I was like, let's really analyze this very well. 30,000 is really significant, no two ways about it. And I can't even write that off. But now let's look at the impact of plastic pollution now, not just at the beaches, but on the lives of the local people, the vulnerable people. And in this season or in this moment where we have climate change also exacerbating the lives of these vulnerable people, can we ever get to calculate the impact of it? Do we even think about those people? Are we just looking at the jobs bit of it? Are we looking at the economic aspects that is being affected by people's life, where they sleep? I'll give you an example. In 2022, I visited Jamestown as part of our advocacy efforts under the ban on single-use plastics, which was launched by my organization, Ghana Youth Environmental Movement. And when I went there, I engaged these fisher folks. And there was this man, one fisherman, who said that he's been fishing for 15 years. And truth be told, each and every year, he has seen the impact of plastic pollution getting worse. He catches more plastics from the ocean now or from the sea now than fishes. And then he showed me a practical example of a fish that has been quelled in this bottle, and literally they can't get it out. It dies in there. And that's what happens to our marine life. And this fish is food for so many people. If they are to harvest a lot of fishes, they come to the farm or the market to sell these to us consumers. It's a source of money or income to them. It's a source of meal for another person. It is what they leverage on to also build the lives of their family members. So you can imagine the number of people who are affected along that chain due to plastic pollution. Just that line of work, you have so many people who are impacted by this pollution that is going on. Furthermore, let's look at flooding now. Now, the issue of flooding in Accra is so beyond imagination. Even Jowulu floods these days. I always say this, I'm shocked, because these are developed estates. What happened? And look at the number of people who get out of their jobs because the place is flooded due to plastic pollution. They may not be able to go back to the streets to go and sell again. If someone has a kiosk somewhere and the rains came down, there was flooding and everything got destroyed, they have to sit at home again, try to make ends meet, put things together before they get back into another job. So the impact of this goes beyond just people losing their jobs, but it's affecting the entire food chain, even the health of people. Now, plastic is being found in human bloodstream. This is too much for us. And exactly what you said in your post I saw on LinkedIn, we cannot sit and wait for this to become something, a nightmare we never believe we'll be living in. So for me, I think it's very important that we are having this conversation today. Thank you, Nana.
Thank you very much, Gloria. And life over ashes. And based on the experiences the fishermen are facing, sometimes I think mostly we always say, don't say waste, say resources, but it's high time we actually set that kind of line, not always that resources. Some of them are killing us. So I think we should actually rephrase that statement and stop saying, don't say waste, say resources. Let's do all that. Thank you very much, Gloria, for that insight. So coming back to you, Henrietta, and I think we can take that from your experience as waste management and sanitation planner. So with respect to the various communities that you've worked with, how do you see the plastic crisis affecting the urban and then the rural communities in Ghana? Mostly we all say urban, but now the rural communities are equally facing the same thing. And then what are the significant challenges that you've observed in managing this plastic waste effectively? So over to you, Henrietta.
Yeah, thank you, Nana. And it's interesting you bring up this issue of rural areas. We had a really intensive debate this week at work, really on rural areas. And fortunately for me, I think I've been privileged to travel the entire breadth and depth of Ghana. And it's sad that the problem in our rural areas is as precarious as our urban areas, unfortunately. I think basically, one, because of the drinking water situation, we've all been sensitized or coerced to think that sachet water or packaged water is the ideal solution. And so we have all these factories, industries springing up around the peripheries of these rural areas that are producing packaged water to these villages. And another significant contributor in the rural plastic waste menace, I would say, is the alcohol industry, and then also the food and beverages industry. You see a lot of sachets of all types of alcoholic drinks. They call them Total Pack, or they have so many names that they give to these things, right? And even milk, sugar, I mean, name them, it's endless. And the intensity or the enormity of this problem of this problem in rural areas is a bit dumbfounding. You know, you'd think that plastic is really an urban problem, but now plastic is also a rural problem that really requires the level of attention that we are providing to the urban areas also for these rural folks. I wanted to share my screen to show you some evidence of pictures or a collage of pictures that I just picked. I was involved in this week and the work that we've been doing. And we'll do a typical waste removal activity, or what people call a cleanup. And for us, we don't just do cleanup, we also do massive evacuation of waste from places that have, well, we call them refuse hotspots. And so when we do this evacuation exercise, and you really look at the waste that is produced, what is visible, you can say we are in the range of about 75% to 80% of this waste is plastics. And even though plastic is lighter, it occupies more space, right? And so it's not heavy, but it occupies more space, and it's really visible in our waste that is generated. And this hitherto was not like that. So really, this is really a problem that requires the level of attention that it is. I always say that I think waste management or solid waste has not really garnered the kind of support that we've seen in the education, the health sector, and all those other big economic sectors. But plastic waste and waste management is also a problem that requires this level of attention, because it is really getting more serious. If you really are involved in waste management operations like I've been doing, it's when you go to our dump sites, our landfill sites, our markets, even our schools, it's a precarious situation. So really, waste is now everybody's problem. And we can't really segregate to say that waste is an urban or a rural problem. It's now everybody's problem. Wherever you find yourself, be rest assured the plastic waste is coming for you, and it requires all our collective efforts to be able to get rid of this monster that is currently living with us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Enwita, for that insight and breakdown. And it's a monster, yes, indeed. And we have to equally acknowledge the mess that we've all created. So this time we have to be part of the solution and not the problem. So if Dean, you can permit Enwita to share the pictures. Sometimes you need to see them so that you be aware of the kind of crisis that we are equally putting ourselves into. As if we've actually dug what's the name? A pit, or probably we are on a cliff, and then we are ready to jump into it by ourselves without anyone forcing us to go in there. So Dean, kindly permit her so that she can equally share her screen for us to see that. So coming back to Gloria, and still with the restoration of forest and then the conservation of natural resources aspect of your work. And I want us to relate this whole thing to traditional reuse and refill system. How do they contribute to the sustainable environment practices in Ghana? And if possible, you can share examples of how these practices probably have been beneficial to your work as far as the natural staff are concerned. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nana. So I'll give you an example through my most recent project under Ghana Youth Environmental Movement, which is the Agroforestry in Communities for Restoration and Empowerment Project, ACA, simply put. So this is a project that is targeting degraded lands. And so it was a 1 acre degraded land. It was degraded through sun winning. And what we did was basically to restore the soil health of that land. That land was literally dead. Like you were not seeing any soil microbial activities going on. You can't do anything on the land. So back to the natural approach, in our quest to address climate change, in our quest to ensure that the food we produce or the food that people have access to do not contribute negatively to the environment we find ourselves. We used several methods. So one of the approaches was to leverage nature-based approach, which is using of rabbit manure to rebuild soil health, planting of several trees and diverse crops just to be able to create that diversity within the system, within that terrain, to rebuild the soil health. Now, I would quickly jump to one thing that I observed, that the very moment we started addressing the issue of, let's say, weeds, we wanted to control weeds, and it was basically through brushing. So brushing means that we clear off the top of the weeds. We don't uproot it totally. We just brush it off, cut the top of it, and then we leave it on the surface of the soil. What I observed during that implementation period was that anytime these residues, natural residues, are left on the surface of the soil, it breaks down. And when it breaks down, you now start to see ants, you start to see worms, all of these things that were not once there, now coming to feed on it. And when they feed on it, I realized that as time went on, the color of the soil was changing. And I realized it became more loose without us really doing a lot of things on the land, like trying to till always, trying to you yourself disturb the soil to make it more loose for any activity. But naturally, as these materials kept going onto the land, the dead leaves and twigs, as they kept falling, we realized that it kept breaking down and adding on to the soil health. And it's very interesting for this topic we have here in this day and age when we are talking about plastic pollution. Now let's look at these leaves that is used. It's called cantanfe. I don't know if I'm mentioning it right, but the wache leaves are very popular wache leaves. Okay. Apparently, this wache leaf is coming from a weed. What we call a weed means that it's not necessary in the environment, Weeds, when you see them back in school, I remember our lecturer was like, when you see weeds, you have to deal with them, destroy them. These leaves, actually, if we are to continue using these things in most of our packaging today, packaging of our bankun, packaging of our wache, rice, gobe, all the things you have, the food we eat every day, if we have these leaves being used for packaging and we discard it today, you are rest assured that this is going to break down. And even when it breaks down, it adds to the soil nutrients wherever you find yourself. I think Ghana is even blessed that everywhere you find soil, regardless of the type of soil it is, you can just pour some seeds and then you find them germinating. So even with these kind of natural packaging or packaging materials that we have, we are more privy to even contribute in so many ways, and not just one way where it's like we are reducing plastics, but at the end of the day, we are even rebuilding or restoring the soil we have all around us, making us even have the opportunity to even raise our own food crops wherever we find ourselves. So these are some of the impact of using these natural packaging materials, some of the practical aspects of these things that our forefathers used to have and leverage so much on. Look at, I think there's like bamboo. Now we have bamboo spoons and fork and all of that. We are so lucky. Bamboo also breaks down. Yes, that's what Nana Menta is holding. Honestly, these things don't stay long when you compare it to these plastic spoons we have that we feel like is easily disposable. Why not get to a point where if it's about washing these spoons that we have a problem with, let's get to a point where we use these bamboo sticks and all of that for our fork and our spoon. And you don't want to wash it and you want to dispose it off. You can dispose it off. And the next day or the next couple of months, it's serving as a meal for the soil. And this soil, someone can just plant something on it and it can serve as a meal for you in the next couple of years. You see, the whole cycle is all fixed together. And this emphasizes on the need for each of us to appreciate nature and learn to work with nature to address all of our needs. And I think if we get to that point, we may be able to move away from all of these so-called modern way of living where you have to eat in styrofoam pack to show that you are rich, or you bought some DB food and all of that. It's archaic. It's really not the right way to go. We thought our forefathers were archaic, but trust me, now I feel like, wow, we claim we are smart Gen Zs, we are now like going way back. So it's time to adopt some of these nature-based approach to address the issue we have at hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just as you made mention, connecting the dots is really important. So before I move on to Harriet, I'd like to read a quote from Ban Ki-moon. Saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing economic growth, these are one and the same fight. We must connect dots between climate change, water scarcity, energy shortages, global health, food security, women's empowerment. Solutions to one problem must be the solution for all. So just as she said, she connected all the dots. And just as we are using these items, is equally contributing to food security and all that, and land restoration. Just as one of my lecturers back in UACC will say, connected the dot, Dr. Minta. So it's important that we connect the dots to all these issues that we are facing. So back to Harriet. And I'm still on the waste management, sustainable waste management and policy development positions that you've actually held. And just on the screen, we are seeing some of the issues that we are facing. One thing I always tell someone that Zoom Lion cannot handle the problems we are facing, like with waste management, especially when I'm going to work. Was it in Medina, Almasamai, on Monday morning, like you see these kind of waste, and it's kind of disheartening when we see these things. So back to that. So Henrietta, I would like to know the various strategies and innovations that you have actually seen that effectively promote the reuse and refill systems in the urban settings, and how can these systems be scaled up to reduce reliance on the single-use plastic as far as your waste management and policy development positions are concerned?
Okay, thank you. Maybe just to digress a little bit before I come back to your question. This is a picture I took in the timber market area. And this is not a landfill. This is not a dump site. So don't think we are on a landfill. We are not even on a landfill yet. This is a community in the hub of Accra, in the middle of Accra. And this is how much waste is sitting there, waiting for it to be evacuated. Imagine if this was just organic waste and really less percentage of our inorganics we could easily handle. But this waste, as you see, is a mixture of plastic waste and a lot of other inorganic contents like metals and other things. So this is really the problem that we are really having to deal with. This is not a dump site. This is a place where people live. And this is their community, their dwelling place, and they do everything over there. So really, and I'm just sharing the last picture. This is just the last picture I'm sharing. This is from one of our cleanup exercises. And you see everything around there is all plastics coming from the drains. You don't see anything else but plastics. So when people say that Accra is dirty, I laugh and I chuckle because it's dirty with what? With plastic waste, right? Our organic and our food waste, normally God has made it in such a way that it's not a problem. It's all the other things that we've added that becomes a problem for us. So I'll just stop sharing my screens and just say that, Nana, to be frank with you, there are so many strategies and innovations. I don't really know where to start. If you're not in the space, you think that nothing exists, right? But my simple solution has always been, let's get back to the basics. I've personally been involved in developing policies, strategic documents. We write very nice stuff in those documents, right? But who is going to implement them? How are we going to implement it? What is the resource that is required to do the implementation? Do we even have the technical capacity to do so? Right? So, I mean, in the whole of Ghana, I think at the time I joined the civil service, we had 40 public health engineers. And these are engineers working in the government sector to collect and treat waste. Zoom Lion is just a private service provider, right? So he has to be supervised by somebody. The whole Ghana, we had 40. This is about 13 years ago. Currently, we have just 20 public health engineers in Ghana. So this is, even though Ghana has adapted so much the Western approach, we don't have the resources, the manpower, the finances to keep this Western life going. In terms of strategies of reuse and refill, I think before COVID, we seem to be making a lot of progress, but COVID has kind of backtracked us into a pit, I would say, unfortunately, because for all our all our programs were around MINT. MINT is materials in transition. Now we have circular economy, but I say that Ghana has always been a circular economy country. MINT is the central pillar for our sanitation policy and for our action plans and our investment plans, the idea of materials in transition. So waste is not a resource, but waste is a material that is in transition from one user to the other or from one use to the other use. So MINT is really the central piece of our policy documents, the Ghana sanitation policy, the strategic sanitation action plans at the national level. And we translate the same document to produce model handbooks for the district assemblies to produce their sanitation action plans, which now feed into the medium-term development programs or development plans. So really, MINT is a central piece. Materials in transitioning, reuse, refill, and all those systems are really a central piece in our policy documents that we have currently at the national level and also at the district level. The challenge has always been with whether these are implemented or to the latter or to the core to ensure that we don't see what we see. And promoting reuse systems. Sachet, I mean, our consumption is contributing to about 65% of plastics. So if we are only able to target this sector of consumption and decide to have conscious efforts to reduce our footprint, our plastic production or generation footprint would really go a long way, from packaged water to packaged food and delivery services, all these many delivery services that are sprung up, producing a lot of packaged waste that has plastics in there. So if we can really target our consumption areas, we are already reducing, because currently that is contributing to 65% of the plastic that is produced. So that's a significant chunk that can be targeted to ensure that we lower it significantly to levels that are reasonable. And now I think from the national point of view also, we are now going more, we are really getting more into the people. I think we've stayed at the top for a long time. Now we are really getting into the people by enacting what we call the sanitation committees, or they are really community members that are being empowered to champion the cause of circularity and help us get the message down there, because from top to down is not an easy approach. We'd always have to start from down or the grassroots for it to feed to the national level. So there are quite a number of things that are going on in the area of promoting reuse, refill, and also even on sensitization itself, because people don't know that if you use a typical styrofoam takeaway pack, it's going to take 500 years for it to start the process of depredation. They don't even understand or they can't relate. So sending these messages out is a critical thing that we are doing now. For now, I think for the GAIA project, we have about 21 communities that we are doing this campaign in, creating change agents in our schools, in our communities, our markets, and all the institutions that are present in these areas to really come out with champion agents or ambassadors for change, to just send the message out there. I think one of our sessions, awareness creation or orientation sessions that we had, when we told people that takeaway packs take 500 years to ban, I remember a presiding member asking us, so why are we still having takeaway packs all over the place? Why are we not doing anything about it? And it was really a turning point for the exercise that we were doing. Only takeaway packs was generated a whole level of discussion and triggered the necessary change or the mindset change that we expect to see. So we hope that these things will be sustained and can be scaled up into more areas, into more communities, and for more people to know what really plastic is and what it does to us and how difficult it is to manage. I'm an engineer, and I'll tell you the truth. We are only managing plastic. We are not treating it. We just need to get back to the basics. We need to reduce drastically our generation of plastics. Otherwise, there's nothing engineering can do about it. Because as we engineer to treat the plastic, we create more hazardous liquid, more hazardous gases. So really, this is really not an engineering problem. It's a problem that we can solve in our own individual corners. And so that's what at the moment GARED is doing. And Real Waste is also supporting professionalizing the space for more technical oriented individuals like engineers to be able to be comfortable to work in government institutions. So I think I'll end here. I've talked quite a lot. I'll end here for the next round. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Narita, for that breakdown and insight. So coming back to the treatment and then the aspect of the engineers working end, we have been made to believe that incineration and open burning are the solution, but on the truth side of it, it's all about greenwashing and then false solution as far as pyrolysis is concerned. So I'll come back to you again, and then we can end this round with Gloria. So coming back to you, with aspects of the same thing, the policies, mitigation, and all that. What's your overview when it comes to open burning and incineration, as people term it as solution to the problems that we are facing? Then Gloria, you can take it up, and then we can end this round of panel discussion. Thank you. Okay, so Harriet, if you can take up the technical and strategic challenges in there when it comes to addressing plastic management with the open burning and the incineration aspect of it. Yeah, over to you.
When you started, I started smiling because I've worked in the Ministry of the then Ministry of Local Government that was in charge of sanitation, and I saw all manner of technologies and nice jargons that always come to our tables for us. We call them unsolicited proposals, and they'll come in pyrolysis, plasma gasification, incineration this, incineration that, all kind of fanciful and so to speak, confusing terminologies that just mean that we are going to burn your waste for you. Whether it's in an enclosure or is an open one, we are just going to burn your waste for you. And the bottom line has always been, what are the environmental impacts of that solution? And they never, ever, ever pass. So I think at some point, some of the private service people who were championing these initiatives felt that the ministry was not receptive enough to innovation, right? Because they saw this as innovation and they classified it as waste to energy and all kinds of interesting terminologies that people capture in there. But I'm really yet to see one that is sustainable, that does not really produce harmful byproducts as a result of turning that. Now we have refuse derived fuels and all those kinds of things. But in India, like this, they are mining out their old dump sites and doing all kinds of things with it, producing compost and all those things. But all these things are polluted because of how we've handled our waste. So plastic really I know the people in the private sector always make an excuse for plastic consumption, but I don't think we really have a choice with plastics in terms of on the technical level. The solution, I have not seen it or have not been part of such a sustainable solution. And I don't have the foreknowledge of that because it really doesn't exist. And unfortunately for us, the developed countries are now phasing out all these so-called high-tech technologies. And where is the dumping ground for these things? Ghana and Africa, of course, that's where they bring them to. People have set up their factories and their industries based on incineration and plasma gasification and pyrolysis. If Europe is banning it and does not need it there, of course they'll bring you to Ghana, where our regulations are difficult to be enforced, or in some instances, does not even categorically state that incineration is banned because our policies have not said that. So that provides an opportunity for private investors and so-called developers to sneak in with these technologies. But really, from the technical standpoint, I don't see sustainability in there. Sustainability should treat whatever you are doing without giving you a negative impact. Once you have a negative impact, whether it's in the air, whether it's in the liquid, whether it's in the byproduct you are producing, cannot be termed an ideal solution for us. So I don't think, I have not seen it and I've not had the experience of it. Let me put it this way, because I've been in fora where people would come up and challenge and say all kinds of things, but it's really just the technical jargon. Some people are in this business and they have to protect their businesses. But from the technical standpoint, I think basically we all agree that all these nice words don't really do anything to our waste. They just turning one problem and creating another massive one for us. So, I mean, technically, I don't know of any solution that will handle plastics. Nana, that's all. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Harriet. So we'll take the final round from Gloria. Her view on open burning and incineration, as people term it, as a solution to the plastic problem. Then we can round the panel discussion. Over to you, Gloria.
Yeah, Nana, thank you very much for that. Henrietta, thank you so much. You are the engineer. You are saying that you've not seen this thing, anything of the sort, and you don't believe that is sustainable. What will I say? Because for me, I feel like, why do we look too far when we are trying to find solutions to the challenges we face? We look too far. We have all the solutions all around us. And I don't know why the world does not classify nature-based solutions as innovation. That is a big challenge to me now, because people are doing so many things that are really like, they are basically using nature or the things around us to address the challenges we have today. But trust me, no one is ready to buy into that. And that's a big problem. And that's really explains what Nana said, that people are trying to protect their businesses. People are just trying to fight for things that they know that at the end of the day, where they get their money from or their source of income or however, their source of survival from, they have to protect it at all costs. And that is a big problem for us. The adoption of these white technologies, quote unquote white technologies, is not the best for us. That's why whenever we are implementing community-based solutions, we try to work with the community members to design the solutions together, because we believe that they have an understanding of the problem and they actually have the solution, but they don't have that empowerment. They have not been empowered yet to know that they have the right solution and they just need someone who supports them to implement it or supports them to make that vision a reality. So if we, Ghana, we want to address the issue, or whichever country, if you are coming from Uganda or wherever you come from, if you want to address the issue of plastic pollution in your country, don't look far. Don't look too much outside the border. Just look within. Develop your own practical solution. And that is the only way we can really fight this thing, because this open burning is actually even contributing to the whole issue of climate change, carbon emission. It's a very complex thing. but I don't even know why it's being promoted, it's being encouraged. These things do not work in our system, and we need solutions. And that solution has to be radical. And I like the fact that Henrietta is going down there at the community level, telling people how long it takes for plastics to break down, to make our local people understand the situation at hand. And that is where we also come in as Gen Zs or younger generations. We have to educate each other. The way we are able to leverage basic technology and social media to make things trendy, and then now everyone jumps on the bandwagon, it's the same way we need to promote nature-based solutions. Nana is holding a fork right here. Can we make it trendy so that anyone who uses this wooden fork like looks bougie, looks like Charlie, some rich person, there's a way we can make this work for us and within the youth context and within the Ghanaian context or whichever country you find yourself. So please don't look far. I mean, these solutions, yeah, maybe they are working in their country. I can't attest to it because I haven't been there, but for our country, it will not work, and I've seen it. And you yourself, you've seen it. Ghana, we don't have enough even resources to venture into that. And Henrietta mentioned that. We don't have it. We don't have the time. There's so many issues to address, and you're going to invest in what? Incineration. And please, we beg you, young people, let's just use the resources around us to champion what we know, what we've already seen our forefathers do that literally worked for us to even see when we were growing up. And let's push this agenda to ban plastic in Ghana, push for a ban of plastics in Ghana, and also address the issue of plastic pollution right from us, starting from us before it even gets out there into the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Thank you very much, Rita, for the insights. I really love this panel discussion, and we've actually thrown so much light. I think we'll come back to the questions and answers. So so let's move straight to questions and answers, since we have a few minutes to round everything up. So I think we have a hand raised. Jacob, if you can unmute and then probably suggestion, opinions, or questions, then we can take it up. If your background is safe and clear, you can equally raise your hand, I'll call you. If not, you can put your question in the chat box and we'll read it to the panel. Thank you so much. Over to you, Jacob.
Thank you very much, Anaminta, and I'm super grateful to all the observations and comments and contributions made by both panelists. I mean, it's super insightful, and I mean, they've said all there is to say. It's just that I want to contribute a bit on the issue of incineration, and I just let out a quick laugh when you posed a question on incineration to Engineer 32, because we met at a workshop a couple weeks back and this same conversation came up, the issue of incineration and all that. And it was a very good conversation. And the truth is this, and just to add on to what she said, there are a lot of regulations on incineration, waste to energy plants in the EU coming up in the EU now. And just a couple months, I think just a little over a month ago, we saw the Lagos state government sign an MOU with one of these Dutch companies to site an incinerator in Lagos. And the truth is this, the EU are sacking them, but they need to stay in business. So they are taking their quick fixes, quick solutions to places where they know they will accept so wholeheartedly. And it's up to us, and these are the kind of things we're talking about. It's up to us to ensure that these things do not make it here. Because even if in your home country, they're upping the regulations, they're making the regulations so tight that you cannot thrive there. Why are you bringing the solutions to us? Why can't you convince your people, convince your own home government, your own state government that, oh, it is safe enough, so let us go ahead, don't tighten the regulation. But they are tightening the regulation, and now you're bringing those technologies to us. And so, I mean, all of them, the waste-to-energy plants, co-processing in cement kilns, like coal-firing, all those things, they are all false solutions. They don't help us because, by and large, even if you don't believe in all the things that the panelists have said, I'm sure everybody here believes in the SDGs. And one of the major SDGs is responsible production and consumption. These things do not promote that, because if we say use and dispose, we are not promoting responsible consumption and production. So that's just the little I want to say. And I mean, congratulations to both speakers. Amazing presentation. I've been paying so much attention. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jacob. But Lagos didn't the ambassador. We are the ambassador. So Benedict, for Sue Arthur, your hand is raised, so if you can unmute and then ask or probably suggest or contribute to this discussion.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much. I don't know if I'm very much audible. Yes, thank you very much. And very glad to be here. Wonderful speakers, learning a lot. So I was listening and then thoughts just came to mind. And I just wanted to ask all of us, and of course our speakers also as well. We are advocating for us to end plastics, to go back to the basics and use the non-plastics that we've been using because of the effects of plastic waste. And it was quite, it took me aback, hearing the figures as to the amount of or the tons of plastic waste that we have currently, even in the environment. And then this question just popped in mind. Okay, so let's say and let's hope, which is what we all hope for, that we achieve our targets of ending plastics, banning plastics, using reusable stuff, using single-use plastics rather than disposable ones and everything. Now the plastic menace in terms of usage has really gone down. What happens to the tons of plastic waste that are still in the environment? Because we know plastics take almost forever to degrade. How are we also looking at addressing that issue? Because I am seeing it as a two-way street here. We cut it down, but then because it takes forever to degrade and it's still causing problems, how do we address that issue also? Because some of them are quite difficult to even recycle, as we all know. So I just wanted to also, a question to all of us, and of course our wonderful panelists who is supposed to share ideas also on that one. Thank you very much. That means
All right, thank you. So we can take Patrick, and then there's one question in the chat box, then we can answer everything at a go. So over to you, Patrick, if it's a question or a contribution.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the wonderful presentation and submission by our speakers. I want to ask, as you keep on, sorry about my background, as you keep championing the issues of plastics, and we are talking about alternatives. I have faced a lot of situations where, let's say, you sit in a church or heading from, what do you call it, let's say, Kaswa to Accra every day. Once I'm in the church or I'm using my bottle, I run out of water. I come to campus and basically almost all the departments or offices, sometimes you enter with your bottle and then you have the dispensers. If you want to fill your own bottle, and like you don't want to even fill your bottle that you are having. So what are we doing about it? What are some of the ways we can do with some of these things? Because we are seeing that the flashes we want to end with the effect. Some of the filters are saying even bottles that possibly should even not be using those things. And then here's the situation where you have your bottles and can't fill them. You run out of water. How are we dealing with this situation? Making the solutions available to the people at their doorstep. Are we looking at having dispensers or some kind of refillable system, mobile ones at vantage places where people can have access to it? Is this something we look forward to? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So I'll read this question sent to me, then our panelists can take everything at a go. So from Benedict Ba, I want to find out how waste is being managed by Zoom Lion and these local tricycle riders who go around picking up waste products, especially in Accra. Ms. Henrietta showed us pictures of clean pesticides. How are those waste managed afterwards? And then one other said that on the push for plastic ban, as mentioned by Ms. Ajari, how can the plastic producing companies, beverage and water producing companies be engaged on this? Because I think as long as plastic is being produced, people will continue using it. So I don't know who wants to go first, and then we can wrap everything up.
Let me just quickly say this, right? Maybe not to answer the last one, but to say that I always remember my lecturer, Dr. Poggi, and he used to say this, that our problem as educated people is that we think that everybody knows what we know, right? This is a big problem for us. Not everybody is involved in Bolawik, or not everybody is a waste enthusiast or an advocate or an activist for climate change or a sustainability enthusiast and all those kinds of things. And so I think that often we feel that why is it that people are not changing, or why is the government not doing this? But really, not everybody knows what we know. And for you to be on this call to hear and to know this much that you already know, it's our duty to really send this message out there. Even for university lecturers, for those who are not involved in waste management, they do not know these figures. They can't, I mean, where would they get it from? The rector of the university or the registrar or the vice chancellor? If that person is not a waste management person, how do you expect him or her to cramp all these numbers into her head? So I think as citizens and as people who are also enlightened about this menace and knows the problem, we should let our voices be heard. And I think for me personally, it's one of the reasons why I carved out time to come onto LinkedIn, because I mean, we've been doing so much, but people don't even know what we are doing. Like, people don't know what plastic, I mean, what is this thing that people are making noise about? I mean, I finish using my water and I just put the bottle in the bin. That's the right thing to do, right? I put it in the bin. I didn't put it in the gutter. The Jakora or Zoomline will come and take it. So I think we need, as people on this call, to be able to also champion this cause, send the message out there. Citizens have a power, and we need to use that power. And I'm happy that organizations like GEM, the Youth Environment Movement, is championing banning single-use plastics. We need to amplify these voices. And if we don't do anything, we need to send out something from this meeting that charges out to produce a very nice infographic or just a picture on social media. Gen Zs, you are really good with Instagram and all these things. I mean, when I go on Instagram, I don't even know what to write. I'm like, what kind of platform is this, So you are good at these kinds of things. Let's send the message out there. Let people know. People should know. Once people know, duty bearers and government will be forced to act. That is how the pressure builds up. And governments will have no option than to ensure that the citizens' demand or their demands are met. It's a long course for citizen power and all those kinds of things, but it is not out of impossible. And so I think that for us, don't let us assume that once I'm in a university, the university's refillable container, they put the dispenser there for their staff. They didn't put it there for students. That's what they'll tell you. Because for them, they don't even understand the issues that we are talking about, or they are too concerned about somebody bringing a bottle that gives them an infection or all those kinds of things. But how about the plastic that you're always putting in your body that is also killing your tissues? So people should really know this and be able to see what we are seeing now and relate to it. That way they are triggered towards the positive change or the positive actions, like having the refillable stands that if you go to any airport in Europe or America now, it's all over the place, having refillable taps that are safe for people to use so that we can cut down on our packaged waste production. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Gloria can take over. Yeah.
Yes. I think some of the questions you may have to read it out again, but let me just lay this foundation first. If we are calling for a ban, I think someone asked what happens to how do we bring the plastic manufacturers on board if there's a ban on single-use plastics? First off, please, let's be honest. Did we hear the figures Henrietta mentioned here about the tons of plastic waste we have? Even in Ghana, I think that the National Plastic NPAP, I always forget their full meaning, but they
National Plastic Partnership.
action.
Yeah,
Yeah,
National Plastic Action Partnership Against Plastic. I mean, something like that.
yes, NPAP. So that's it. That's what I really remember. They stated initially, they stated that 1.1 million tons of plastic waste is generated in Ghana every year. Maybe you don't understand. 1.1 million tons. So I think now it's 0.8 million tons. But anyways, or either ways, whatever it is, that is a lot of plastic waste in the system. And I remember during our community-based activity on this single-use plastic awareness creation, like Henrietta said, we need to educate everyone. Maybe what we think is the solution may not be what the people truly understand. How then do we get the masses involved in this advocacy effort? It's just by educating them. So as part of that approach, we went to Kaneshi markets last year, and then we went to the Temalori station to also speak with the drivers and the vendors over there. I engaged with this woman who says that she is one of the key consumers of single-use plastic. So if I'm coming to her to tell her to stop using it, it won't be possible for her. It is impossible for her. And one concern she raised was that how do they stop using plastics when it's the only widely available alternative? Like it's easy for them to find it. It's easy for them to buy it because it's cheaper. It's readily available. You can just pass in and buy one pack of black polythene bag and you can just use it. You know, she said that how do we call for a ban when these things are going on, when the manufacturers are still manufacturing each and every day? You know, and this is why we need a ban on certain types of plastics, at least for the first phase of a moment here in Ghana. If we want to address the issue of plastic pollution, we need to let all of these producers halt. Then now the waste in the system, we look at some of these creative ways of handling waste like recycling, upcycling, reuse, and all of that to manage what we have in the system, at least for the next 10 to 20 years. Because the plastic waste we have in the system, you can't even use 5 years to clear it, even if these people halt production. So that's one first thing I want us to understand here, that the rate of pollution going on, if we really want to address it, which a local woman in the market even suggested to me, and I really agree with, then we need a ban so that we can manage the situation at hand. Nana, I think there was another question. If you can read, there was the first question came from Benedict.
So from how can the plastic producing companies, beverage and water producing companies be engaged on this? Because he thinks that as long as plastic is being produced, people will continue using it.
Okay, great. So one thing I always advocate for is a comprehensive stakeholder engagement. Because when you call for a ban, people are like, what will happen to the producers? What will happen to these people? What will happen to this? But if we really want to make progress, we need to have a conversation. I always say this, even if you want to address situations at home or with a friend, when there's a problem, you need to have a conversation, understand each other's perspective, understand what's at stake. And that is what I actually expect from governments and our leaders. Let's have a comprehensive stakeholder engagement. Let's look at what is at stake and let's collectively find solutions to some of these things. Okay, let's say now this year we want to ban just 2 types of plastics. What happens to this one who is producing this plastic? What can we do to support this person? Do they need to transition into starting to look at sustainable alternatives to these plastics we are banning? That is how we can really address this situation. We can't just sit in somewhere and just decide and then expect things to work. We have to involve everyone who will be affected by whatever decision we take or we make as a nation in terms of legislative approach. So that's one thing I always say, that if we want to think about everyone, then let's have a conversation with everyone and let's develop practical solutions to address the issue of plastic pollution. So that's my response to that. I think from there, from that comprehensive stakeholder engagement, we can have practical solutions and even be able to set timelines for the manufacturers to also now start thinking about how they can still be in business, but this time around producing sustainable alternatives to single-use plastics, then they don't run out of business. They are in for money. So if the whole country is saying that, okay, now we want to use reusable bags, are you not going to produce for us to get your money? You have to. So yeah, I think that's the approach or way to go nationally. Yeah. And then there was another question, or I've addressed all.
Yeah, with respect to the Zoom Lion picking up waste, the local tricycle riders. So what happens when they pick up the waste afterwards, the management? I don't know if you take
I
it
think
or
Henrietta,
Yeah, she
yeah,
actually answered that.
yeah.
Okay, so yes, please. So Jacob, if you can add up, especially what GAIA is equally doing with the communities, then we can wrap things up. Or probably we can let Theophilus speak for some few minutes, or probably his question, and then you can wrap things up. Yeah, Theophilus, very brief. So of course we've already exceeded 2 hours.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a bit of contribution to what we've discussed so far. So I'm very glad you've given me the opportunity to share. So I had last week, upon doing a certain research with one lecture that is looking at spatial organization and looking at species loss in the ecosystem. So we use a GIS data where we're able to assess the data of 20 years back in Winneba and that of currently 2024. So there were a couple of species that we were able to, examine, special plants that were going into extinct. Now, in relating to what you are saying, there was one particular species that is that plant that really glowed that small, is it the palm wine cap? So actually in where we are, they were growing just everywhere. Where people were just using that particular, people can just take it. If you go to their homes in the villages where we were living, we can see that they just pick them, dry them, and remove the seeds from them, and you go to their houses, that is what they are using. But these days, they are not growing anymore. A woman we even assessed during data collection told us that they try even to collect the seed and grow them, make sure they are able to grow because it was very resourceful. And that thing, that small calabash thing that they used to, serve palm wine and other things, it was very difficult for that thing to grow. Now, compare that to this, that means that in our old days, climate change has been a factor as we are also talking about. But if we really want to tackle the issue of single-use plastic and other things, one thing that I've always been suggesting is creating a competitive means of substitution that is going to really backslide plastic usage. Else, it will be a very difficult thing. Example, the toxic bags and the small bags that we are creating, like the cloth issue and so on. If you sometimes compare the bags or the prices of this thing, our first man, Baba, his introduction, he mentioned something that the bag that he was heading, that is the Bolaga bag, he clearly told us that it was expensive. So, Mr. Minton, now compared to this, in our environment as economists, if we really want to solve the plastic issue and we are all helping, one thing that as a youth and as other organizations, we must also try and engage ourselves into a certain field of production, substitution that is going to substitute the plastic thing that we are using that is way cheaper, so that it will force individual, because if you want to do this, advising or talking to someone not to use this thing again, the person feel less to accept it, unless the person feel they need that when I'm buying this 10 cedis and this 5 cedi or 2 cedi.
Theophilus, are you with us? Okay, so I think he's
the person will prefer to buy the 2 cedis own, regardless of the condition. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Theophilus. And with this issue, if I want to talk about it, it will take us another 1 hour. So, Jacob, kindly wrap things up with respect to the issues that are equally in, so that we can wrap and then finish this session.
Sure. Thank you very much, Nana. Just to quickly contribute on some of the issues. I mean, a lot of things have been said super amazing stuff being said and being contributed. But maybe if I could just throw just more light a bit on. Somebody asked, where does the waste go? When the Bola Taxi and Zoom Lion and Asadu and Jakura, all those guys. Many times, some of these guys, for example, I know some of the Bola Taxi or the Aboboya, as we like to call them, take them to a recycling facility. There's a couple of them. There's IRECOP, there's ACAP that buys some of these materials back. Then there's also the MRF, which GAIA operates, just right behind the Lada de Kotopong and Municipal Assembly building. That also recyclers come and buy some of the recyclables back. And then, of course, the organic waste is then composted at the facility. So there's a wide range of these things. But the problem is that these facilities, I don't think, are enough to be able to handle all the waste that we produce or the waste that we generate. And so I think while we are saying that we are responsible and we need to make better life choices, of course, there's also the advocacy bit where GEM, GAIO, a lot of the other CSOs are keep talking to the ministries, both of environment and of sanitation, to be able to do more to properly manage our waste in an environmentally sound manner. But to speak more on essentially what we can do with or what we are doing with the waste that's already in the system, we like to call them legacy plastics, because assuming we stop plastic production today, there's still a certain amount of plastic waste that is in our system now that we need to take care of. And I've always said that true circularity is in the circulation of products and not materials, in the sense that you need a lot of energy to be able to break down the product back into materials and create another product out of it before it circulates. But true circularity is in the circulation of products and not materials. That is to say that a circular economy model ideally should be one that, for an example is the previous system where we had the Coca-Cola bottles, the glass bottles. That was true circularity because you have the product, you don't need to break it down to form another product again, unlike where we have plastic bottles these days where you have to pelletize and go through a whole process. And frankly speaking, in Ghana and a lot of sub-Saharan African countries, we have an energy crisis. And so with the very little energy that we have, let's use to power our television and our phones and our laptops, as opposed to using it to recycle plastic and all that when there's the simple alternative. So for the plastics that are in the system, what I can say is that we can use the method of mechanical recycling to be able to recycle those plastics. And the reason why I've always said that recycling is not a solution is because for plastic products, sometimes you can recycle up to only 2 times, and then the value of the product is non-recyclable anymore. So you recycle once, you recycle twice, and that's the end. You cannot recycle anymore. And so the talking points of, recycling is a solution, recycling is the way, is really not the way, because you recycle twice, and then what happens? So for the ones that are in the system, the legacy plastics, of course, we can recycle them. But the solution then is to cap what we have now, to cap global production. That is the way. And that is one of the things that GAIA has been doing, advocating for an ambitious global plastic treaty where we've been participating in. But by and large, I really would appreciate if all of us make very responsible life choices, very, very responsible life choices. And they are in the very little things. The way people say you love your partner in the little things is the same way loving the environment is in the little things. It's in the very little things. Deciding that when you buy something, you're not going to take plastic packaging. Those are the very little things. You don't need science to do that. You don't need to get a university degree to do that. It's just making a conscious decision that I will not take plastics. They can call you no plastic boss or no plastic woman or whatever it is, like they call me at Marina, but it's really not a thing. Like, it really doesn't take anything away from you. And the excuse of, I'm out for if people see what I bought, what is the problem with it? If I'm shy of what I'm buying, I shouldn't be buying it in the first place. So if I have my tote bag or I forget my tote bag and I decide to hold the things in my hand, it's really not anybody's problem, really. And so I call on all of us to be agents of change, to be zero waste ambassadors, as I like to call it, to talk to other people, to embrace the lifestyles that we have embraced of our own, and try as much as possible to segregate your waste. Because if you segregate your waste, you give it a higher recyclable value, and we can do the little bit on our end to be able to recycle what we have now, while we hope that there will be a global cap or moratorium on plastic production. So thank you very much, Naminta, for the opportunity, and thank you very much to our panelists, Engineer Said, and of course, Ms. Ejari, for contributing to the session.
All right, thank you very much. One word I'll start to conclude the whole session is scam, just as Gloria has stated in the chat box. Yeah, some of these things are scam. It's not only MTN scammers who are scamming. Plastic issues too. The people are still scamming us. So we have come to the end of our engaging and insightful session today. And I must say your participation and questions have made this discussion very truly enriching. So right from the live art demonstration, the launch of our publication, and then the panel discussion from Engineer Henrietta and then Ms. Gloria Ejari. It has been very insightful, and it has actually provided the valuable insight into the plastic pollution that we are facing now and the importance of sustainable practices. So just to reflect on today's session, let's remember that meaningful change begins with awareness and start from us and action. And the initiatives and ideas shared today remind us of the power of community and innovation in tackling environmental challenges. On this note, I'd like to thank our comms team, Dean, and then McCall for making this session possible. Without them, this session wouldn't be. So I'd like to equally appreciate them for their efforts for putting everything together. So to capture the spirit of our session, I leave you with this thought. Our future depends on what we do in the present. Let us act with purpose and commitment to preserve our planet for generations to come. Once again, thank you all for being here, to all our speakers, our panelists, and everyone for joining us today. Let's take that the knowledge and the inspiration from today's session and continue to advocate for a cleaner and more sustainable future. Have a great day and let's have a great time. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Sure.
Asante sana. Hey, Jacob is giving us pressure.
Okay, bye.
Tanzania vibes. All right, bye. Let's have a great time.